So my name's Gemma Pearce. I'm from a small company in Nottinghamshire called Loopwheels, and we have developed this, which is a wheel with suspension inside it, and we've got that on the stand here today. This is a new product which we're launching for wheelchairs here at the show. And what I'm going to talk to you about this morning is a little bit about the product, but more actually about our journey as a small company, how we took our idea of a sketch to a bicycle wheel, and then to the wheelchair wheel that we've got here today. And how we have developed it as an idea and taken it into a product that we're now selling all around the world. So just to start at the beginning of the journey, my husband is called Sam. Sam is a product designer, an engineer, and he had done a lot of work a few years ago designing pushchairs for children. One day, when he was coming back from some work with a company in the Netherlands, he was sitting at the airport and he noticed a woman, a mother, pushing her child in a pushchair. Because he was designing pushchairs at the time, he took a bit of an interest in this pushchair, and he just sort of happened to notice and looked at it and thought, that's a really nice, expensive pushchair. It's got masses of suspension on it. And at the time, this is in 2007, there was a real fashion for off-road, heavy-duty pushchairs. The mother pushed her child in the pushchair. She came to a curb, and instead of lifting the two front wheels up over the curb, she hit the curb head on with the front of the wheels, and the child just sort of jolted, wasn't hurt, but jolted forward in the pushchair. Sam just thought to himself, there's all that suspension on this pushchair, but it does absolutely nothing if you hit against the wheel here as opposed to here or here or here. So wouldn't it be better if there was some sort of movement within the wheel and you could have suspension inside the wheel rather than on the frame of the pushchair? This was the sketch that he did in his notebook at the time. And then I have to say, he got on his flight, he came home, and he thought no more about it for quite some time. A year or so later, he was thinking about, I think he'd been out on a bike ride, does quite a lot of mountain biking. He thought about his idea for this suspension within the pushchair wheel and thought, you know what, that was a good idea. I wonder if I can make that work. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, he started experimenting with building little prototype wheels, wanted to develop it for his own mountain bike, and gradually got to the point where he had a working prototype that was successful in terms of, working as a concept, although not being anything like a product that was ready to sell. We've worked with a small company called KG Archery near us in Nottinghamshire to develop these very clever springs within the wheel. So he, working with them, was able to eventually develop that little idea and his basic prototypes into a bicycle wheel that we've been selling now for nearly 2 years, both as a wheel and on a folding bike. And then this year we've launched our wheelchair wheel. And we also do wheels for trikes, which was something else that came up along the way, but those are our products. So how did we go about, once we had a basic sort of prototype and a product that was nearly ready for market, how did we go about kind of starting and selling it? And how does a company which began as 2 people, well, originally Sam, and then I joined him in the company, and then we took on 1 person, and we're now 4 people. How does a company of, a very small number of people, manufacturing a product ourselves in the UK, how do we actually get that product to market and, out to the world and make a successful business out of it? The answer really is by using lots of very clever tools that are easily available to anybody who decides that they want to make use of them. As you can see on this slide, There are things that you can do using social media. So this is Instagram, this is Twitter, and this is Facebook. So, you know, we've got at our fingertips these days a number of tools for communicating with the world. I'm not an expert in social media. We use social media. Lots of people do it a lot better than us. Some people don't do it quite as well as us. We do okay with that, and we can talk to lots of people using social media. There's another really useful thing that lots of people use these days. It's called MailChimp. It's a way of collecting people's email addresses and sending them newsletters and news. And again, that's a cheap and efficient and fantastic way of building up your mailing list and talking to people. What I am going to say a little bit more about in detail this morning is about how we used crowdfunding. So this is Kickstarter that we used, although there are lots of different crowdfunding platforms. So I'll tell you a bit about that. I'm also going to say a little bit about using UKTI and the support that UKTI have given us as a company. And in passing, I'll also mention, because I'm just showing off a little bit, because I'm very proud of the fact that we've been nominated for a design award, and we were also chosen to be a finalist in the ISPO show, which is the International Sports and Play kind of branding. So that's a massive show in Germany where lots of the big companies, you know, go and exhibit their wares every year. But they also have a little area of that show where they pick out new and exciting products and give those small companies that are very new the opportunity to have a stand at a very cheap cost and can, you know, show off their products. And we were lucky enough to be chosen to be one of those finalists in that competition, and had the opportunity to do our first trade show in January 2014. So without further ado, I'll get into a bit more of the detail. So crowdfunding, first of all. There are, as I say, several different sorts of, well, there are two main types of crowdfunding. There's the type of crowdfunding whereby you are offering a part of your company to people, that you're offering equity in your company. We didn't do that. We used the other sort of crowdfunding, which is a rewards-based crowdfunding. And there are several different platforms that you can use to crowdfund a product. There's Indiegogo, there's Kickstarter, and there are others. The one that we've used is Kickstarter. It started in the United States. Basically, it is a way of taking any kind of a creative project. It may be a product, or it could be something like a film, or it could be raising funds for your local playground. It could be, you know, a different range of things. But in our case, obviously, we had a product which was a prototype bicycle wheel that was nearly ready to launch but wasn't quite there ready to launch, and you can write a campaign, place it on Kickstarter. You get a lot of publicity through putting it on Kickstarter. You also have to work hard behind the scenes to garner that publicity and get attention to your product, but people will pledge their support, and they will basically pre-order the product. And it works kind of the reverse of Amazon, whereby I go on Amazon, I click my button, I buy something, I pay the money now, and I expect it to be delivered, you know, within the next 4 or 5 days, or, you know, with some other sites, you get next day delivery. With Kickstarter, it's quite the opposite. People understand that you're putting a product on that is not ready, is not in production yet. So you've got a good working prototype that you've tested. In our case, we'd got applied for patents, we'd got registered design, we'd spent thousands of pounds developing a product over about 4 years to test it to make sure it was ready. But we had just a very few prototypes, and what we needed was funding to take that prototype actually into production. So the way that Kickstarter works is people understand that you haven't got product ready to deliver to them. You're asking for them to pre-order. You're asking for them to buy, effectively, in this case, either a bike or a pair of wheels from us, or a t-shirt, or to put in just a small amount of money, like £5, to just see you do well. And so people can pledge anything from £1 up to £3,000 for a product, and they know that in return they will be one of your first customers, and when your product is ready, we will deliver a product to them. And that may take 3 months, it may take 6 months. At the time that you do your project, you say, we expect to deliver your reward in June next year, or wherever it may be, and people sign up to it knowing that they're not going to get that product immediately, but they're going to help you on your way. These are just a few facts about Kickstarter that I took off their website. It started in the States. It came to the UK in 2012. we did our first crowdfunding on Kickstarter in April 2013. So it was about 4 or 5 months after Kickstarter came to the UK. Now, the UK is one of the countries that does most crowdfunding in the world. Kickstarter say that 44% of projects have achieved their funding goal. Me being a bit of a cautious negative person translates that as 56% don't achieve their target. It's not the case that you can just put your project on Kickstarter and expect to get loads and loads of people backing it. You have to work hard behind the scenes to make a really good case for your story, and you have to do work to build your crowd. So you need to get friends and family to pledge, you need to do a show, you need people to sign up and say, when we go live with Kickstarter, look out for it. In our case, we did a bike show one weekend, and the Kickstarter went live on the Tuesday morning. So over the 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I had people sign up to our mailing list, sign up to the mailing list, ready to receive an email from me on Tuesday to say, right, we're live with Kickstarter, please support us and put in a little bit of money if you just want us to see us do well and just, help us on our way. Or you've got your chance now to order wheels from us that we'll deliver to you in 5 or 6 months' time. Now, this is quite important as well. The average across Kickstarter for a pledge is about $25. For our first campaign, we were asking people to pledge £950 for a bike. So that's a lot of money to part with for somebody who hasn't seen the product necessarily and is prepared to go with it. However, I have to say there are people out in the world who are really keen to see products do well, who maybe they have had an opportunity to try out the bike because they've come to the show and seen it, and they will be prepared to put that kind of money behind a product if they believe in it and they are convinced by your story that you've got a good product that's going to work and do something for them. So why would you want to crowdfund? Obviously, I've talked about the fact that you need funding to get your product from prototype stage to the market. But actually, there are other really important reasons why you'd want to crowdfund a product. It's great about raising funds for your first production run, but also you get an awful lot of people who will give you feedback about why they love your product and why they're pledging. You get early adopters, and you also get feedback from people who say, I'm thinking about pledging for your product, but actually I've decided not because I'm concerned about this aspect, or because it's too expensive, or because I really like it, but I don't like the particular hub that you've used on your bicycle. I don't want a 3-speed hub on my bicycle. I want an 11-speed. I want a Shimano Alpine 11-speed hub, not your Sturmey Archer 3-speed, which, was some of the feedback that we got. And if you look on our website now, you'll see that not only we do a Sturmey Archer 3-speed, which is absolutely great for lots of people, we also do a Shimano Alpine 11-speed hub within our bicycle wheel because, we got enough people all saying they wanted the Shimano Alpine 11-speed. So without having to actually physically go out to the world and talk to lots of people, you immediately get a sign in your first few months that perhaps your next product or product improvement might be a variation on what you've got. So you get fantastic market testing and user feedback. In terms of market testing, most of the crowdfunding platforms are looked at by people all over the world. We assumed that our business kind of growth would be selling, first of all, products to people in the UK. We're based in Nottinghamshire, and that, after a year or so of doing well in the UK, we'd perhaps think to export to other countries. What actually happened with us is as soon as we put our product on Kickstarter, we had customers pledging and buying product from us from Korea, China, Hong Kong, the States, France, Germany, the Netherlands, one in Russia. So we had kind of, customers all over the world. So forget the kind of plan that we'll start in the UK and build out from there. Actually, in our first year, we sold more product for export than we did within the UK. So it gives you good information about where in the world people are going to like your product. So it's right from the start, we found out that people in Southeast Asia love small wheel bikes, and that there's a market for us with our wheels in Southeast Asia. And we, got a distributor in Singapore right from the start for doing Kickstarter. The third advantage of doing crowdfunding for a very small company, I mean, my budget for marketing was probably about £150. You know, it was just not a realistic budget at all. But by putting my product on Kickstarter, I was able to get publicity and advertising all over the world, not only from people who look at Kickstarter, you know, every week to see what's new on it, but also because the online fora and magazines, Wired, those kind of magazines are looking all the time to see what's new on Kickstarter. So we had some publicity in the Sunday Times, we had publicity on CNN International, because they had seen our product on Kickstarter, thought this is an interesting product, let's give these guys a ring and see if, you know, we can have some interesting, you know, hear their story. So that was absolutely fantastic. We were on, I don't know if anyone saw the Gadget Show on Monday night, we were on the Gadget Show on Monday night, but actually we were also on the Gadget Show briefly and fleetingly in July 2013, just a couple of months after we'd launched, and again, they'd seen it on Kickstarter. So they approached us and said, do you fancy, you know, providing us with a bike for a day, and we'll do some filming, and can we use you on Gadget Show? Obviously, we said, great, yes please, wonderful. Just very briefly, I said I wasn't going to talk because I'm not an expert on social media, but just to illustrate, this is a kind of little snapshot I took from our Facebook page a little while ago, just to show that, you know, our fans, we've not got a huge, massive fan base on Kickstarter. I'm not an expert in social media, but it just gives you an idea of the spread of where your fans are, or where our fans are. So we've got predominantly men who are our fans in terms of Facebook, because, you know, we've started with cycling and bikes, and there are around the world actually cycling is more of you know, more favoured by men than by women. You know, however much we might want to change that, that is the fact at the moment. We've got fans at the moment now slightly more in the States than the UK. We've got a massive following in Italy. That said, we don't get a lot of sales to Italy, so the fact that you've got fans, that doesn't necessarily mean you get sales. We've got massive following in Brazil. Now, we've had a big following in Italy and Brazil right from the start. When I say big, I mean it's a proportion of our total Facebook fan base. I could have got very excited. In fact, I did get excited at that point. I thought, right, we're going to go and, you know, we're going to export to Brazil. What I did with this information is I contacted UKTI and found out that there was going to be, you know, in about a month's time, a really good session from an expert on Brazil to find out more about Brazil and more about the market in Brazil. What I found out is that people in Brazil absolutely love Facebook. They use it hugely. So the fact that we've got a particularly big following in Brazil is partly that people like our product or like the idea of our product, but actually it's probably more of a reflection of the fact that people in Brazil love Facebook rather than the fact that they love Loopwheels. So, you know, you can use this data. It tells you something. It gives you a sort of starting place, but use it with caution. Again, this is on our mailing list from MailChimp. Most of our, this was just one from one of a newsletter that I did last week. I think the top locations of people opening the newsletter for one of our ones was USA, other, so rest of the world is 44%. USA was the biggest single market, 35.4%, and the UK is only 13% on that particular mailing. On another one, again, it was 27% in the USA, 27% again in countries all over the place, and United Kingdom 14.5%, followed again by Italy and Brazil. Okay, so you've got a prototype product, as we had ourselves in 2013. We've launched it on Kickstarter. We aim to raise £40,000 on Kickstarter. We were very successful in our first campaign. We raised 153% of our target, so we'd aimed for 40,000 and we actually got £61,000. So if you like, £61,000 worth of orders, although quite a high proportion of those, amazingly, were from people who just put in money for no reward. They sort of saw the product, thought, this is incredible. This bloke from Nottinghamshire called Sam Pearce has reinvented the wheel. He's put suspension within the wheel. He's worked hard on it. Good luck to him. And they, you know, put in Some people put in £1. We actually had people pledging as much as some people put in £300 just because they wished us well. They didn't want a reward. That is the amazing thing about a crowd that gets behind you and wants to support your product. But effectively, what we had in 2013 was an order book for our first 40 or so bikes fitted with loop wheels and pairs of wheels, and some other awards we were offering in the way of T-shirts and sort of, things like that are less specialised to us. So we were a company at that point of 3 people. We had a small manufacturing facility. We got our product. We knew how we were going to make it. We had done a lot of planning about how we were going to package the product, how we were going to send it out to people. We decided we were going to use UPS and Royal Mail. We'd got vague quotes on how much all of that was going to cost. However, we were learning absolutely everything. UPS, we'd done various quotes on what we thought it was going to cost. I have to say that one customer in Moscow, we must have made a loss of about £200 on selling, that product to Moscow, because the UPS bill was enormous. However, you learn as you go on. So UPS is a courier service delivery. Yeah, realising, sorry. There are various different companies you can use. You can obviously just put your stuff in the Royal Mail post, or you can go, via all the different courier companies, and we use UPS. Very efficient, very reliable service. We work with UKTI. I was, in 2013, I was looking for all the help and advice I could get from anybody and everybody. So I got in touch with UKTI locally in the East Midlands and said, I'm a new company, we're manufacturing this product, we know we're going to be sending our product abroad to customers. At the moment it's individual end users with a single product going to a single person in all these locations. I kind of think I know what I'm doing, but I'm sure there's a lot more I could learn. Can you help me, please? So immediately, within a week of that phone call, a lovely chap called Gordon Binney came out to see me and said, okay, I'm your local UKTI export advisor. Tell me about your business, tell me what you're doing, tell me what your plans are, just start from the basics, explain it all to me, and I'll listen and I will see what I can do to help you. So I just, said, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting on, these are our plans. He said, sounds good, brilliant, yeah, good, that's all good. What about, have you thought about export duty? And I kind of thought, yes, I think so. I think we thought about that. How are we going to do it? In fact, the way we were going to do it was fine, because using a courier service like UPS, we'd made clear to our customers that they were going to be responsible for any taxes and duties in their country, and UPS will collect that and sort that out for us. So that was good, tick that box. But he was kind of asking me all the questions, some of which I'd thought about and some of which I hadn't thought about. It was really fantastic sitting down with Gordon and actually coming away from that meeting thinking, I feel as though I don't know what I'm doing, but Gordon seems to think I can do it all fine. If Gordon thinks I can do it fine, he must know, because he sits down with businesses all the time and talks them through it. Okay, so we'd done our Kickstarter campaign in April, May 2013. I got in touch with UKTI. At that first meeting with Gordon, he said, what I'll do, Gemma, is I'll sign you up to our Passport to Export program. This is for people who are new to exporting. We signed up to that. I'm not an expert from UKTI. I don't know if it's exactly the same now, but the way it worked for us was that by being part of this program, we had a full day's training to introduce us to the basics of exporting and meeting other small companies that were doing things similar to ourselves. We also had the opportunity to go to other seminars and training sessions. He gave us reassurance. UKTI also have set up for us one-to-one meetings with representatives from countries where we've been interested in exporting. So, for example, I said that we'd had some initial orders from Korea, South Korea, and I was really interested in finding out more about whether this was a country that we should look at doing some serious business with, because I'd also been contacted by a company there who are a bike manufacturer and seller, and they were sort of saying, we'd like to look at Loopwheels. I had a one-to-one meeting with a representative from UKTI in Korea who was over in the UK doing one-to-one meetings with companies. He was so helpful in telling me all about Korea as a country, including kind of cultural issues such as the fact that in Korea people love outdoor activities. They're really into their cycling. They love climbing up mountains. They love trekking. They do it in a group. He said, so if you're thinking of marketing to Korea, don't have, actually as we've got on some of our materials, which is a lonely little wheelchair by itself, or a lonely bike looking gorgeous and moody in the background. What you want is a whole crowd of people on their Loopwheels bikes. That will work in the Korean market, and having a single person on a bike will just look, I don't want to be part of this because that looks a bit kind of lonely. The cultural preference in Korea is to be part of a team and be part of a group and doing things. Little tips like that made me sort of think, okay, that's really useful for when I'm planning my marketing materials for Korea. Just an example. I've done a one-day session on introduction to Japan because, I mean, again, we've had interest and we've had some sales to Japan as well, and we're planning about how we will enter the Japanese market in a kind of very planned, slow way. Because that's the way it works in Japan. It's about building up a relationship with a Japanese company over time and making sure that when you do a deal with Japan, you do a deal that's really good and right for you and that they're happy. But it could take 2 years to build up a relationship with a Japanese company. The other side of the spectrum is the States, where probably in half an hour you'll not only have met them, said hello, but you'll have done the deal and signed on it. You know, there's sort of two, I mean, I'm exaggerating somewhat, but there are different ways of doing business with different countries. And working with UKTI, you can commit, you know, without having to sort of commit yourself to travelling to the country and spending 3 months to find this out, you can have a really good insight and tips from other people who've been there and done that and learnt a lot. So that's been fabulous for us. I've also done a really useful session with UKTI about the kind of intricacies and differences between what's a distributor and what's an agent. If you've been in business for a long time, you may know all about that. I hadn't been in business for any length of time at all. I had no idea what the difference was between a distributor in another country and an agent. I'm not an expert now, but at least I've got a good understanding of the basics of it and know where to start with it. And as I say, we do have a distributor in Singapore. And now with our wheelchair wheels, we're looking at all sorts of legal agreements and contracts with distributors and dealers and agents as well. So that's, you know, a good starting point with UKTI. The other thing that Gordon put me onto as my export advisor is an association in the East Midlands called EMITA, which is East Midlands International Trade Association. I'm sure the same thing operates all over the country. Again, that's a combination of local businesses involving a law firm who are experts in international business. They work with UKTI and other organisations locally to run seminars about once a month about different issues to do with marketing, branding, to do with the legal aspects of exporting. It's another great opportunity to go along for no cost whatsoever in your first year, because you have free membership as a member of a part of the UKTI Passport to Export programme. And then after your first year, it now costs me £120 a year to get a once a month high quality opportunity to learn from somebody and to network and talk to other businesses about what they're doing. So that's been great. I've also used the Trade Show Access Programme through UKTI. So UKTI has funding available to help small businesses with the costs of doing a trade show abroad. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that we had been nominated for we were chosen, as a finalist in ISPO Brand New. So that was an invitation to go to Munich and have a stand at an international trade show. Absolutely fantastic. It was very low cost relative to what a stand there would normally cost, but it was still quite a big cost for us as a small company. Obviously, you've got to go, you've got to travel to Munich, you've got to pay for your hotel for a couple of nights, you've got to have enough product on the stand, and the stand itself, I think it was probably only about £400 or £500, but that's still £400 or £500 that when you're starting up as a small business, you may not have. So UKTI offer a number of grants and ways of supporting companies that if your business is about selling your products abroad, and so in effect bringing revenue into the UK, then they offer you some support and grants of about 50% towards the costs of things like trade shows. So it's really worth asking what's available and how they can help you. The other thing that's happened through UKTI is UKTI have a campaign running at the moment. It's probably got some flyers there. In fact, I can see it. Business is great. Innovation is great. All sorts of things are great at the moment is the sort of catchphrase. And UKTI have done a show in Tokyo in February this year called Innovation is Great. They were showcasing really interesting UK products and asked us if we would be willing to provide some Loopwheels to put on show in Tokyo. Why would I not say yes? You know what I mean? So that was wonderful as well to have the opportunity to showcase our product at a really fantastic show in Tokyo. And we've got some nice footage from the organizer in Tokyo who personally took some photos on his phone, or his wife did rather, of the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, looking with interest at our Loopwheels. And I thought, isn't it fantastic that you have to send your wheels to Tokyo for the royal family to be able to see them? But that was a nice bit of publicity for us. It doesn't necessarily result in sales, but it's good to have content and nice things happening that give you something to talk about in your newsletters and things. Okay, so just to recap sort of fairly briefly, because I'm running over a bit, what we're doing this coming year is we've done an export communications review, is what UKTI call it, which is that I've, at very low cost, about £350, I think, I've had a half-day session with somebody who's really expert in looking at our website and saying, you've got lots of people coming to look at your website, Gemma, but they're bouncing straight off because it's a bit too quirky in English. And they don't recognise, all the content if they don't speak English, and it's not user-friendly for a non-English speaker. So let's work on how we can redo your website in order to make it more friendly to people from all around the world, to kind of show that we're open for international business. Now, you can look at our website today and you'll see it's still that quirky English version, but in about 3 weeks' time, when the new website goes live as a result of that review, then hopefully, we'll have a lot more people who are attracted to our website and actually buy product as opposed to looking at it and thinking, ooh, and bouncing off again. We've just done another crowdfunding campaign for our Loopwheels for wheelchairs, which we're launching here at NAIDEX. So these wheels with suspension in them help people who use wheelchairs go over curbs, go over bumpy ground, pavements, much more easily than if you don't have suspension within your wheel. So we're launching it here in NAIDEX. Our first orders are to the people who backed us on Kickstarter. We wanted to raise just £16,000. We really were doing Kickstarter this time around for the market testing and for the feedback and finding out about where in the world our markets were and advertising to other countries as much as actually this time around for raising that production funding. So we will deliver our first wheelchair wheels to Kickstarter backers in the next month. As a result of that, we have got interest from the UK, from Europe, and we've got a distributor in New Zealand just. And again, we're talking to a company in Korea who are a mobility country in Korea who are really interested in having some wheels from us to trial. And, who knows, hopefully we might have an order from Korea. We'll be taking orders from our website, which will be, as I say, in a few weeks' time, our new, more internationally friendly website. I'm looking at possibly having an international student to work with us to help us think about the German and the Spanish market. That's something else that UKTI have given me some information about, and I want to find out more about that. So, that's something that I'm looking forward to doing, to talking to them about, to see if that's right for us. And we're planning we've had approaches from the USA, but one of the other great things about being your own business and being a couple of years into it is we are learning to be a bit more strategic in our thinking and to be more planned in what we're doing rather than being too reactive. So 2 years ago, if a distributor from the USA had come and said, right, we want to sell your product, I've got really excited and kind of thought, yeah, we're going to go into the States. This time around, we've got quite a few people from the States coming and saying, what about Loopwheels for wheelchairs in the States? And I'm saying, great. Let's talk about it over the next year. Our plan is to roll out in the UK this year and in certain countries in Europe and we've got, as I say, New Zealand as well. That's enough for us this year. Let's build up our volume, build up our experience in this new market, and let's think about doing the States in 2 years' time. So, you know, it's about getting confidence about what you're doing as well. And as I say, potentially, you know, for Japan as well, there's be a similar story. I know my limitations. We're a small company. I don't want to stretch ourselves too much and try and take on the world in our first year of doing wheelchair loop wheels.